Hi, my name is Colleen Perry. I am your presenter tonight, and I'm going to be talking about navigating the dysfunctional families during the holidays. So, first of all, I just want to give you guys a quick intro about who I am as a person. I am an advocate for those who experience addiction and dysfunction growing up. I grew up with a mother who struggled with alcohol, and she passed away due to complications from her addiction in 2015. When she had passed away, I had the regular emotions such as sadness and helplessness around, losing her. But there was also a relief that I went through because in the wake of her death, I felt that the dysfunction that was so rampant in my family would be at end. And unfortunately, I was wrong. That dysfunction did, continue. And a lot of times we saw that not only like in everyday life, but we saw that during the holidays too. And in the wake of her passing, unfortunately, in my family, I could not talk about it. I had nowhere really to share that and to go through that emotional process. So I started my page Impacted by Alcoholism as a opportunity to kind of share my story. And it's really built into this really cool community of not only people that experience addiction in their families, but dysfunction and other things that may be going on. So tonight, what I'm going to do is the first part of the presentation is going to be about our experiences during the holiday season, feelings that may come up as part of that, and then how to navigate that. So the first part of it is how we experience the holiday season. One thing that I think is important to touch on is holidays are seen as the most wonderful time of the year, but for us, for those of us experiencing either addiction or dysfunction or both in our families, that is not always the case. The second part is that there is a focus on family time and thankfulness during the holiday season. You see that in the messaging, you see that in the ads on TV where families get together and they're happy. And that can be very hard for us who come from dysfunctional families because our imaging is so different. Like the imaging is so separated from what we may be experiencing in reality. And that can be really difficult. Also, we're dealing with the logistics of planning holidays around, family addiction or dysfunction. Like, can we go to my parents' house? Is it okay to go to your sister's or is there going to be a fight? And, kind of trying to plan those holidays around that. So the second part I'm going to talk about is feelings that can come up as part of that. So like I said in the last slide, we talk about the juxtaposition of social norms in our reality. So a lot of times you see images of happy family functions that, are hard for us to understand or to relate to, and that can lead to a lot of like uncomfortable feelings for us. We can be disappointed, we can be sad, we can be angry that we're not experiencing that, and that can be really, really challenging and difficult. Um, we can have competing and often confusing feelings. You can have a family member that, I don't feel comfortable going to my dad's for this holiday, but that makes me really sad. And you can understand that you don't want to go there because this, or this may happen. But then you also have like the sadness or frustration that you can't do that because you do underlying care about that person. But at the same time, be also being angry or upset that you can't go there and you don't have that regular holiday experience. Again, going around reality is around holiday planning, trying to balance like the wellness of yourself with like family expectations. You may not know that that's not a good place for you to go, or maybe you're only going for a couple hours, but then there's that family expectation of why you're not there for longer, or why are you not coming? And that's where we come into but they're your family messaging where, a family member may not know the full story of what's going on. And they may be saying something like, but they're your family. I know a lot of us have heard that. And that can be really frustrating, especially if you're not at a place where you're ready to share everything that's going on. And then also, talking about triggers, being at home can be a huge trigger because a lot of times like in your home of origin that you grew up in, because a lot of times that's where this dysfunction happens. That's where a parent is drinking, or using an illicit substance, or, parents were fighting or they're fighting with you. And a lot of the memories can come back when you're in that space, and that can be really, really difficult. You know, not only that, like those physical reminders of like your house, your childhood home, you also have that compounded with being exposed to dysfunctional family systems. Like a lot of times I think for me personally, it's been very, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier for me to stick to my guns when it comes to, following certain, being like, this is where the boundary is. This is, it's easier to do those things when you're separated. It's a lot harder when you're in those familiar spaces and you're around those familiar feelings. And I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but sometimes it's like you almost feel that need to almost like backslide a little bit, not backslide, but just to play into that family system. There's definitely that pressure for me that I feel around the holidays, especially when I'm around certain family members. And then the third thing is like watching someone's struggle with, is when we're talking about addiction, sobriety, or drinking. The holidays tend to be a time when there is a lot of pressure on people, being at parties. And, there's usually, unfortunately, in the United States, we have like very heavily, you know, alcohol is a big use or a big part of our holiday celebrations. And if you have someone in your family, and I've talked to several people that experience this, but you have someone who's been sober for 6 months or a year, and they're having a drink on the holidays or something, or they're struggling a little bit more with that sobriety. There's obviously feelings that come up with that can be really, really hard for us to navigate, especially if we are in a mixed group with our families, not only like our nuclear families or the people that we're with every day, but you're at a holiday party with your whole extended family. That can be really, really hard to navigate. And there's, I think, one thing that I want to talk about is just like it's okay to have competing and often confusing feelings. Like a lot of times, and I talk to people all the time that feel this, you feel sad and you feel angry, you understand you need to do this, but like you also feel like guilt and stuff. And it's so important to understand that sometimes these feelings are on totally different sides of the room. And that can feel very disorienting, but that's very normal, especially when you're in these situations. So the last part of my presentation is just talking about some ways to navigate this season. And the first is just to go back to what I was talking about a minute ago. Hold space. It sounds super simple, but hold space for whatever you're feeling. I feel like as children who experience addiction dysfunction, we have a tendency of putting on a brave face. And there is a place for that. And I think that that's a good resiliency that a lot of us have. But make sure that you are holding space for whatever you're feeling. Don't push it off to the side, or if you have to push it off to the side because you're in a space where you can't fully get through that right now, make sure that you circle back to it in some sort of way that, you can get back through it, write it down, do something, like make sure that you have time to go back and hold space for what you're feeling. And your holiday celebration may not reflect social norms, and it's okay to not be okay with that. The second thing is kind of tied into the first. Make sure that you get your feelings out somehow. The worst thing that you can do is hold everything in. And I'm saying this to you as a chronic person, or person who chronically holds things in, that I'm working on not doing that anymore. It's so hard when you are like I'm the eldest sibling, so I have a tendency of trying to hold everything in, and then it finds a way out. That's all I'm going to say about that. But find a way to get your feelings out, and that's going to look different for every person. Journal or write a letter. We talked about this in one of the support groups earlier in the year. If you can't have that conversation with that person that's hurting you, write them a letter. Even if you're not going to send it, it is so helpful to write what you're feeling down so that you can process it, but also so it's at some point, maybe you have that conversation, you can talk, you can look at that letter and review it while you're having that conversation, so you're not thrown off course, but just getting that out. there's lots of groups like Al-Anon or other support groups that are around that would be able to support you during the holidays, finding your people that you have support with, or some people that's church, other people that's Al-Anon, other people that's a sports team, like a intramural team that you work on. Talk to, like, find who your safe people in your life are. Like, is it a friend? Is it someone that you work with? Is it a spouse? Like, that can be an option too. And I also put therapist on here. I know that that's definitely something that certain people have access to and other people don't. But that is an option. And then make a self-care plan. Go through before the holiday season and make a list of the things that make you happy, that you're passionate about, that if you're having a bad day, like, what do you do when you're having a bad day? For me, like, I either go for a walk or I spend time with my daughter, or I will, take my dog for a walk, or I'll go for a run. Like, for some people that may be going to the library, for some people that may be going, you know, and spending time with friends. Like, think about the things that you're passionate about that bring you peace, and like have a list available, so that, or either like a physical list or like something on your phone that you can that you can reflect back on. If you're having a hard day, like, what on this list can I do that's going to make me feel better? And the last thing I would say is just, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. I know, for specifically like my lived experiences as the child of someone who struggled with addiction, is that, like, for many years I was very opposed to asking for help. I thought I was fine. I didn't need help. And one of the things that I'm learning in, my recovery is that, like, it's okay to reach out to people and it is okay to ask for help. Um, so many people, and one of the coolest things that I've learned running my platform and Instagram is that there are so many people experiencing this. Not only like people that I met online, but people that saw me writing about this in my own community that felt emboldened to share after I shared my story. You're not alone. There's so many people experiencing this. And in closing, the one thing that I would say is, what is one thing you can do to take care of yourself this holiday season? So, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.